At dawn, in Piazza San Marco, the square feels as if it is holding its breath. A thin, milky fog drifts low over the stones, and every step you take echoes softly, as if the city itself is listening. The pavement is still wet from the night air, and ahead of you, slowly emerging through the haze, stands a giant. It is built of red and golden brick, warm even in the morning light. For more than 1,000 years, it has stood here watching over the lagoon, watching over Venice. Today, it feels permanent, unmovable, as if it has always been here, and always will be. But that feeling is an illusion, because one summer morning, without warning, this giant disappeared. In a matter of seconds, Venice lost its voice, lost its shadow, lost the tower that had told its time, warned of danger, and guided sailors home through darkness and storm. This is the story of the Campanile of San Marco. It is the story of how a city built a tower on water and mud, and dared to believe it would last forever. Of how that tower collapsed between prayer and dust, and of how Venice, wounded but unbroken, chose to raise it again exactly as it was, exactly where it stood. Stay with me. In the next few minutes, we will travel across 10 centuries, through medieval shipyards and Renaissance workshops, through lightning storms, earthquakes, and human error, through a moment when all of Venice stood still, watching its greatest symbol fall. And when this story ends, you will never look at that bell tower the same way again. For centuries, the Campanile was never just a bell tower. It was a lighthouse for merchants returning from the open sea, scanning the horizon for a single point of light that meant home. It was a watchtower, its sentinels peering across the water for enemy sails. It was a statement not of faith but of power, continuity, and confidence. The Venetians had a name for it. They called it El Paron de Casa, the master of the house, because at nearly 100 meters tall, it ruled the square. It rose above the basilica, above the Doge's palace, above the noise of daily life. Its shape became the city's signature, drawn by travelers and remembered by sailors long after Venice itself disappeared behind the horizon. Merchants from Flanders wrote of its beacon at night, describing it as a golden finger planted into the black sky, a signal that said, "You have survived the sea. You are safe now." And yet, perhaps the most extraordinary thing about the Campanile was not its height, but what stood beneath it. Mud, soft clay, shifting water, a lagoon that should never have allowed such weight to stand at all. And yet, Venice did what it always did best. It made the impossible float. Venice learned very early that height was not its enemy. Instability was. So the builders began from below, not upward. They drove thousands of wooden poles into the lagoon floor, oak, elm, larch, hammered down until they reached a layer where water and earth could no longer move freely. The wood did not rot. Deprived of oxygen, it hardened. It turned to something closer to stone than timber. Upon that forest of hidden pillars, Venice placed its faith. The first Campanile was not stone at all. It was wood, a simple lighthouse, rising above the marshes, crowned with fire. At night, that flame was everything. It meant trade. It meant survival. It meant Venice existed. But lightning struck. Salt ate away at iron. Time demanded more. So brick by brick, century by century, the tower grew. Not in a single vision, but through generations. Each doge added something. Each collapse was repaired. Each crack was studied, patched, trusted again. The tower did not rise quickly. It aged upward. Inside, a ramp spiraled slowly, wide enough for horses to climb. Bells were lifted piece by piece. The city listened to its own heartbeat echo down the square. And above all of this, the Campanile watched. It watched wars come and go. It watched ships return heavy with spice and silk. It watched plague carts roll silently through the square. It watched triumphs, executions, festivals, prayers. It rang to wake workers. It rang to summon senators. It rang to announce death. Its bells were not music. They were command. Each one spoke a different language. One called craftsmen to work. Another summoned lawmakers. Another announced judgment. Another marked the hour when the city itself paused to breathe. If you lived in Venice, you did not need a clock. You lived by the voice of the tower. But the tower was never still. Lightning struck it again and again. Fire racing through the belfry, bells cracking from heat. Earthquakes opened wounds down its spine. Repairs followed. Reinforcements. Iron chains wrapped invisibly around its core like a belt pulled tight. And beneath it all, the ground shifted. Quietly, slowly, almost politely. In the late 19th century, Venice tried to modernize. Sewers were dug. Water was redirected. The balance beneath the city changed. The lagoon floor dried where it once floated. Pressure moved unevenly through the wooden forest below the tower. No one noticed, or perhaps no one wanted to. Cracks appeared, thin at first, hairline fractures that seemed harmless. Engineers reassured. Newspapers calmed. Tourists came and went beneath the shadow of a tower that had stood for nearly 1,000 years. Then came July 1902. Witnesses spoke of strange sounds. A low vibration, like a distant organ warming up. Painters felt the tower tremble beneath their scaffolding. Bricks fell, just a few. Enough to alarm. Not enough to stop the city. On the morning of July 14th, the square was cleared. And then, at 9:53 a.m., the Campanile let go. It did not tip. It did not lean. It collapsed inward, folding into itself as if kneeling. 6 seconds. That was all. A roar like the breaking of the world rolled across. Stone exploded outward. The loggia vanished beneath rubble. The ground shook as far away as Mestre. When the dust settled, Venice stood in silence. The giant was gone. No bells rang. No shadow crossed the square. For the first time in centuries, the city felt smaller. Exposed. As if a guardian had stepped away. Miraculously, no human life was lost. Only the caretaker's cat did not escape. Venice gathered itself quickly. There was grief, yes, but no hesitation. That very night, the decision was made. The tower would return. Not replaced. Not reinvented. Not improved. It would ride Camera, where it was. As it was. Citizens donated coins, jewelry, savings. Foreign rulers sent funds. Engineers came from across Europe to study the site. This would not be nostalgia. It would be precision. They built differently this time. Stronger. Smarter. Hidden strength wrapped in familiar skin. Reinforced concrete at the core. New piles driven deeper. Old bricks returned to the surface so the tower would still look ancient. Still feel remembered. And on April 25, 1912, the bells rang again. Venice answered. The Campanile stood taller, heavier, steadier, but unchanged to the eye. Gabriel turned once more with the wind. The shadow returned to the square. Since then, wars have passed beneath it. Floods have lapped at its base. Lasers now measure its breath. Sensors listen to its heartbeat. Algorithms watch for movement no human eye could ever see. The tower still stands. Not because it is stone, but because Venice refused to let it disappear. So when you stand in Piazza San Marco at dawn, and the fog drifts low, something eternal, you are looking at something rebuilt by will. A reminder that symbols can fall. Cities can break. History can collapse in seconds. But memory and determination can raise giants again.